on the left.
Yeah.
Live.
Hi, Katie. Hi, Mayra.
Hi, Swarna.
Hi. It, Thanks for accepting our invitation. And I just wanted to introduce Katie and Mayra, who are the founders of the brand Grow Florecita, and also the book. Um, Grow Florecita. So I just wanted to say, yeah, exactly. This is how the book looks. Um, could you tell us like what motivated you to write this book, how you started, and more about yourself? And
I can start that since it really began with,
okay,
and then Katie came in and it was like a orchestration from there. So I wrote this book after my son was born, my first son, and he's going to be 6 in August.
wow,
I wrote it as a poem to myself. And at the time, Katie and I had been going back and forth. She was in Spain, and we wanted to create a children's book together. And we wanted to create in general together, wouldn't you say, Katie? We were really just open.
Absolutely.
Really, really open. And I remember I wrote this poem and I read it to Katie. And this is the first time Katie and I have been on a live together. So I want her to speak on her reaction and how she felt when I transferred that. So I wrote it.
okay.
And I had this inkling that I needed to create this into a children's book, because I remember I had a dream. Remember, Katie? I had a dream and I saw the book, and I remember going to Katie. It's bright, it's pink, it's yellow, it's beautiful. It's in the wall. It's inside of the, I'm walking past the store. It's in the store. I just envisioned it. It was done. And when I came to her with that idea, so what happened when I read you the poem, Katie?
Yeah, I mean, so Mayra and I had already been working together a lot. Went to college together. That's how we met. So I think we were already working together in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was living in Spain. She just had her first son. And we were really just, even from all that far away, right? Still working together. And then Mayra sent me the Grow Florecita poem. And immediately, I don't even know if you officially, I don't know if you said, let's make this a children's book or what, but it was just obvious. Like we're like a little bit telepathic. I feel like Mayra and I,
yeah, no,
it was just like done, yeah. And she knows, I mean, if you know me, you know that I draw a lot of flowers. I paint a lot of flowers. It's kind of like my hand almost can't help it. That's just what I like to do. And so, yeah, I fell in love with the poem because it's a bilingual poem about the growth of a flower. So you could read it in English, and then you literally just flip it over and you read it in Spanish.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's like double-sided, English and Spanish, and yeah, I was sold.
Actually, I was actually thinking it's like you published 2 different books in 2 different languages. That's what I was thinking initially. Oh wow, that's really cool.
We wanted it to be in one book. We wanted it to be accessible to people.
Wow.
And we just hand to people and they have access to it all.
Wow. So, Katie, you illustrated this book, correct?
That's
So,
correct.
what was your thought process? Like, how did you go? I mean, I know like she wrote the poems, you mentioned to me that you both went to college together, school together, right? How long do you know each other, and how did that help you to understand her thought process of the poem and come up with the illustrations? Because
it's a good question. Yeah,
good question. We met about 10 years ago, right?
It's almost been 10 years. Yeah, it's almost been 10 years. I just got started with what I was inspired for each page and what I saw and what I felt. And but the thing is I do procrastinate a little bit, I'll be honest. So if it weren't for Mayra to just be like, don't be a perfectionist, just get it done, yeah, this book would never be complete. Like I feel like I'm never finished, right? So
I want to speak on that. It's so funny because I remember actually when I saw the book, I saw Katie's flowers, because I remember walking into a room in college and they were just literally be a bunch of doodles and flowers everywhere, like paintings, and she would always have paint on her fingers, and it was always very clear to me that she was an artist. And I remember just walking in and, oh my gosh, you did this and it's so beautiful. And she would just be like, oh, it's a doodle. Yeah, it's my doodle. And I'm like, this is a doodle. This is beautiful. You know? And I used to love, and so when this book came through, Katie's flowers, I saw them in the book.
Wow, that's awesome. And it looks like there are a few viewers. We'll say hello to all our viewers.
Hi.
And probably if they have any questions in between, you can feel free to ask us, and we would be happy to answer those questions.
Yeah, right in the chat. If
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. So once you have written and illustrated, and how did you go about that? Your journey of publishing, like, did you go for a traditional publishing, or you wanted to do your own self-publishing, and what was the journey? How did that journey look like for you both?
So we were gonna try and go like a certain publishing route. We tried different things, and even just going on Amazon or whatever. But one day I was actually walking through my library in the kids section, just kind of going through, getting ideas. And I picked up one book, and it had this amazing, like, soft paper. And I was like, what the heck is this? And I like went to the front, and I happened to see that it said it was made of stone paper. And I never heard of that before. And I did some research. I told Mayra. We were both elated by it, just like, what? And that's really what started another big journey with getting the book out. Was like, we got pretty committed, very committed to getting this book printed on stone paper. And so what stone paper is it's paper that's made from recycled granite and recycled rocks. So there's no trees used to make stone paper.
Wow.
So that's like pretty big for us. We're big tree lovers, right, Mayra?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw in Mayra's profile as well that she's very, I mean, she is part of the earth living in Oakland, right? So it's very cautious about the environment, right, Mayra?
Yes, it's to me, it's a deep, soulful connection to the earth.
Yeah, so it was really important to us, and that's a whole other rant. I could go on, but I'll save it for later. But it was very important for us to get this book printed on stone paper and not use any trees and not contribute to deforestation, right?
Exactly.
And climate change and landfill. So another fun fact about the book is after 10 months, if you were to bury this in the ground, which I hope you don't because it's a precious book, but if you do, it would only take 10 months for it to decompose.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To non-toxic materials. So it is a biodegradable book because obviously, as we all know, landfill is a huge issue. So I love that we don't contribute to landfill with our book, and we don't contribute to deforestation.
So. Wow, that's awesome. And what is your opinion on ebooks? Like, what is your stand on ebooks? Like, I'm just curious, is this book available as a ebook as well, or it's only printed book?
That's a good question.
It's only in print.
Okay.
Personally, I mean, I don't know about you, Mayra, but I don't really read ebooks. I've maybe tried to here and there, but I love physical books. I love them.
Okay.
I love them. I just love everything about reading a book. So what about you, Mayra?
Same. I mean, I don't remember the last time I've read an ebook, to be honest. And I'm not against them. I'm not like anti ebook, but I personally love the feeling of a book in my hand and
Touching.
touching it and feeling it. And the reality of it, I think, is we've been in this process and this journey, and that we've attempted that, right, Katie? But we're not quite there yet in that way. So, but we
Okay.
have a physical book. That's the reality of it.
And how did you go about the marketing of your children's book? Like, how did you try to market to people, get to know, like, how could you brief us about how you went about marketing for this book?
Yeah. So I would say, obviously social media. We did, when the book came out, we had a book launch party, which was great. Just to get the word out, like this exists now, and have people get together about it. Yeah, of course, we could always increase our marketing as part of our upcoming quality, but yeah,
Great,
word
great.
of mouth, and obviously too, like we've both gone like physically to stores to have them sell it. We've gone to schools actually and done some speaking with schools and stuff like that.
Wow.
So
Actually, we have a question from a viewer. They
Mhm.
asked, great to see all of you hear about the background of the story. What book printer did you go through to use the stone paper?
A good question. Um, it was one that we found with a lot of research. So I know that there are specific stone paper book publishers. And then they were able to direct me, because I was reaching out. They were able to direct me to one. I'm actually not completely sure of the name at this time. I don't remember the name. It was such a long process, and we're just like so grateful to be finished. But if you just research, you have to, find what's best for you, right? Because there are a lot of options, which is great. I wish there were more.
You know,
Um,
Katie, I would say the thing also for us is like I remember when we connected to them, they were not advertising as creating with storm paper. We had
yeah,
to push and advocate. So there's a
we had
possibility.
to, right.
Yeah. So there was a few we were it was a hard it was like that was I think that was what took us the longest, right? And that's why when Katie was speaking about the paper, I was smiling because I love to hear her talk about it because she's so like I've never met someone so passionate about paper. And I think that was really fun to work with her, and sometimes challenging too, because it was so much work to find a printer. And the reality was we found some places, but the price wasn't right. And so we really had to advocate for ourselves and say, hey, this is what we want. Can you make this happen? And I would say that's also another route where if you found somebody to print your book, you can also advocate for yourself to use certain papers, and maybe you have to pay a little more. I don't know, but that's another tip.
Yeah. So that's a good point. I think we actually ended up committing to a printer
Mhm.
that would use stone paper.
Right.
So they actually got a big roll of stone paper shipped to their factory
Oh,
so that we could print our book. So it you're right. Yeah, it wasn't they weren't advocating stone paper printing, I think.
No.
Yeah. Quite the
great.
commitment.
Great. Actually, I have one more small question to you. Like, in the sense, like, this you showed this book and you turned it down, and it was showing in Spanish, right? Why did you go? When it is a very novel and creative approach. My question is like, how did you come up with this idea of having the two languages in the same book rather than going for two different books for each language?
So I can speak on that. So growing up, my mom's Mexican and she's from Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't speak much English, and a lot of the books I had at home were in English. I
Mm-hmm.
remember having like a couple books in Spanish, and she would read the same books again and again and again, which I loved, but at the same time, I remember to me that stuck with me, and I just would love always like I would love to have more books for her to have read, and for me it was really important to have them both of the languages in one book, so it's accessible and people can have it if they want to learn Spanish, if they want to read it in Spanish, if they already know Spanish, if their parents are bilingual. Like in my household, my dad was born here, knew English and Spanish, but at the same time, and my mom knew Spanish mainly, you know. So my dad could read it to me in English, my mom read it in Spanish. So that's kind of just to honor all of that.
Great. Thank you. Actually, I just have one more question. Like, just wanted to know your thought process. As you know, like, if you have heard about MagicPolygon is a app where actually parents can invite their family members as storytellers to their kids, and they can either the storytellers can either record or live stream their stories in their own voice, so that the kids can hear to the stories at any time. And I mean, what would it look like if an author is able to read through that platform? I'm just thinking about that idea, like where publish like authors like you, where after they if they could have the book in the app or something, and if they themselves read the stories to the children as an event or something, what would be your thought process on that? Like,
would I enjoy that, or would I
yeah,
want to
yeah,
happen? Of course.
yeah.
I think that's a great idea. It's coming from the author, the person who read it, the person who put so much love into it, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Because I know when I read it with that love.
Great. And I also saw in your website that other than the children's book, you have also built a brand for yourself, right? So could you talk about this journey of brand building? How did you start? Is it started with this book and went as a brand, or how was that journey?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, we have been on quite of a journey with that actually, but um, at this point, we do just have just a couple products to basically like merchandise to go with the book or to go with our brand at this time. Um, so, for example, we have like a hat that you can buy, which is super cute, our hoodie, and then like a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing in nature blooms all year. um, but yeah, it's definitely been a journey, figuring out where our branding really lies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, I could go into that whole there's been a journey. I could go into it, but it's long.
That's okay.
And I'm just glad to be here where we're at now.
Same.
Great.
Yeah.
And are you planning to write more books? Is there any future books that are going to come?
I would say that's a really good question, because it's yes, and also right now we are focusing on the expansion of the brand. When we went through the journey of creating Grow Florecita, it took a lot to grow her, into, and so now our focus is to build and develop the plan, because the reality of where we are is that she is more than a children's book. She's a consciousness. She's a movement. She's a way of life. Florecita, the message within Grow Florecita is really here to interject into society a way of how we can navigate adversity, and how we can connect to the earth, and how connecting to the earth as an ally can really support us in our journeys of healing ourselves and transforming ourselves and being who we are here to be, which is anything you can dream of, right? So the reality of where we are now is expanding Grow Florecita, Grow, the book, the consciousness, the message, into a brand, which is ultimately a movement. So that's taking our time right now. More than
Yeah.
there are more books, in there of,
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. So
get it? Okay. It's a mouthful, but okay.
No, I was just curious whether you want to build a series or you want to take different topics, or do you want to go for a storybook or poem like that? I was thinking. So
Yeah, I think right now, exactly what Myra said is, of course, there are like other books on the horizon and this and that. But ultimately, growing as a brand, Grow Florecita, and growing that consciousness, and focusing right there, is where we want to be at. Yeah. Yeah.
great. So uh, I'm looking forward for more content, more books from your brand. Thank you so much, and it was great talking to you.
Thank you so much, Swarna.
Thank you.
Bye.